Okay, as I promised, following up from earlier today, I have my CompTIA packet. You can see it good. And we're going to open it up to this unboxing and see what's in it. First, you get a nice big envelope. Next, you get your congratulations packet. That congratulations packet, when you've opened it up, has your certificate, and it has your little, let's see if I can get it, little card that's stuck on there. And it has a message from Todd Troubadour, President, CEO of CompTIA. Flip it over, let you see it. And it just says simply in part, you're CompTIA certified, dear CompTIA certified professional, congratulations on passing your recent CompTIA exam. Your new designation means you're in demand. This is an exciting time for all of us in the IT industry as new technologies emerge. The opportunities available to IT professionals are endless. Over 20 years, CompTIA, the IT Industry Trade Association, has helped over 1 million IT professionals progress their careers by validating their skills and knowledge the industry demands. Achieving this certification demonstrates expertise in your field, and I am pleased to recognize your achievement with the enclosed certificate and ID card. Thank you for your participating in CompTIA certification program. For all of us here at CompTIA, we wish you continued success. Todd Troubadour, President, CEO of CompTIA. Then he has a little quote from him. But now I want you to check out the certification. But I also want you to also know, also with the certification, there's a PDF form of your certification that you can get the day of when you pass your certification. Please note that on that PDF form of your certification, it has a verification code on the bottom of it. That verification code allows anyone that you send that certification to go to the website and switch over here, and down in the bottom of that this is a copy of my PDF cert. It has a little code down there that when you send it to your employer or send it over to HR or attach it with your resume, they can type in that code and verify it same day, which means if, say, you're on the clock, you took the test, you got your results back, and let's say you did it in the morning. By a little after 1 o'clock after lunch, you'll get a PDF similar to this one with that little code down there. And that's how one of the ways they can validate your credentials. Also on your exam score report, there's a section down there that will say something. Well, it won't say something like, it'll say specifically, you incorrectly one or more questions from the following areas. If you don't pass the test and you're serious about getting your certification, one thing you might need to do, or I would suggest you do, is look at those objective areas that you didn't do too good on. When you look at those areas, it's going to be kind of general. It's going to say like 4.1 or 5.8 or something like that. Go back to the objectives. If you haven't seen the objectives before, those objectives, drum roll, drum roll, drum roll. Let me see if I can find them here because I know I downloaded them. There it is. Security Plus. Objectives. Yeah. All right. Now, let me go back here. All right. These guys right here are your objectives. Okay. All of this about the exam. Now, this handy dandy little section right here, where it goes into domain, percentage domain. On your score exam, what usually happens is if you go to a proctor test area, they have a printer and they usually print it out for you. Or, if you get home, you have access to that score sheet. If you get upset and you forget it, you're going to get emails from CompTIA giving you good news, not so good news, whatever. And you can get a copy of your score sheet. And when we scroll down here, when it gets to that part that says you didn't answer questions in a section, these are the sections. Like if it says 1.1, here's everything you needed to have studied in that section. And that's why I say be careful understudying and overstudying. My experience, my multiple choice questions had multiple answers. It was always which two. I didn't have that many that was just, here's a question, here's one answer. Maybe that was just the luck of the draw I got. And so when you go through these, take your time. And I say again, if you have no idea what any of this is, or you're a little rusty on it, go study. When you go through these different objectives and domains, you're going to be asked about them, but it's not going to be a one-to-one definition like you see all the time. Basically what it's going to be, you're going to have different, I'm going to say, different questions asking you, do you have any clue what this is? That's the main thing that can throw you off. So don't let it throw you off. The basic thing you can do is go through these, be patient, and remember something. CompTIA, the test, doesn't take points from you. You're building points, which means every one of these you answer correctly or you apply it correctly, you get points. And you want to get as many points as you can. Try not to leave nothing on the table. Get as many points as you can. Try to get as many correct as you can. And as you see, this is a long list of objectives. Some you may be familiar with, some you have no clue. If you have no clue, start looking them up. And don't just settle for SOC. That's a security operations center. Don't just stop there. Try to see if you can find some examples of what a SOC is. Maybe someone will have some pictures of SOC, something like that. Do a little bit of extra due diligence, and you'll do a lot better, and you'll make it. And my scorecard here. And as you can see, I passed. I had a pretty damn good score, if I do say so myself. Going back to these one-to-one definitions, like I'll get it where it talks about cloud. 501 and 601 at the time that I'm recording this was 2021. Software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, all those things it gets a little deeper into. So you might have to know your question on, say, a platform as a service, or I use one that's a little bit more common that you might have seen. Say software as a service. Let's say you don't have any of the hardware, any of the software. You have to log in, have internet access, and the software is out in the quote cloud. It'll ask you, based on what you want to do, the project, what is this example of? And it'll give you the scenarios. That's how the question will be asked to you. You know, it won't be a straight SaaS is what. Doesn't always go on like that. Same thing with, managing risk and some of your hard drive stuff. It may ask you with your storage, which storage option uses the less or not as much storage. Will you use let me see what's one there. Let me go back to the RAID. What's a good RAID one here? Your incremental backups. Do an incremental, a partial, or a full. You have to know what those are, know the differences, and know some examples. Why do I have headphones on? Once you do that, once you get familiar with those things, you will do a lot better on the test. So that's why I'm saying don't panic and don't try to I'm going to know everything I need to know about. It's not about knowing everything you need to know about right then and there, because once you pass the test and get in the field, you're going to get a chance to get more in depth with things. But you're going to have to know what they are. You're going to have to know how to use them. You're going to have to know some examples of them. And any experience you may have or not have is going to help you. If you don't have an experience, this is your chance to learn. Take the time, learn, figure it out. And, I can't give you any more advice than that. Everyone's asked me 3 or 4 times. I mean, I wish I could sit here and tell you there was this magic bullet, but the magic bullet is you. How much of this stuff are you actually familiar with, first and foremost? If you're not familiar with most of it, you're going to have to sit down and you're going to have to start reviewing what this stuff is. You're going to have to start familiarizing yourself with it. And with this SLE, ALE, ARO, yeah, they're going to ask you a question like that. And it's going to be a real world question that's going to, you're going to have to know this formula. You're going to know how to make this formula and how to use that formula. So you're going to have to look that up. Same thing with the response. Do you accept it? Are you going to get some type of insurance to transfer it? Are you going to find a motivate together? You're going to mitigate it. In a podcast I mentioned that I was a part of, I talked about how now transfer is what a lot of companies do. They get insurance and they lower you up, and it's about as far as they want to go with it. But each company is different. Some companies, their liability with this are higher. Like take a hospital. Hospital's liability with patient information is going to be a lot more of a danger to them, because, at $1,000, $1,500 a pop, that can get pretty hairy, at a hospital where you're seeing people and greeting people and managing people, daily. Same thing with documenting what happened, being able to properly document what happened with an incident. That may be part of a police report. One example I gave was a situation where someone abused the key card, and that was part of a police report. Their key card hadn't been turned in. They still had it. The key card on top of that was still active, and they were able to get into an area and take some things from that area they weren't supposed to. When you go through these objectives, and these are the 501 objectives, there's something I want to bring to attention that you need to pay attention to on objectives. You see this little section right here that says Comp Security Exam Objectives versions 2.0? Pay attention to that. The reason why I say pay attention to that, because 601 is barely 3 good months old, and it's already on 2.0. Another example of a set of CompTIA objectives that change is Network Plus. Network Plus can go up to 5.0, 6.0, but read this little section right here on your exam objectives and make sure, say it again, make sure you are using the correct exam objectives. If you're not using the correct exam objectives, you're going to have a problem, because the test you're going to be tested on is going to be based off the current objectives, which means if, say, for instance, you downloaded objectives, say, in February of last year for 501, and they were on the 1.0 version, and you just study what's on the 1.0 version, you're going to have a problem. I'll give you an example of this. Let's look at, now this is, bring that down, see. This is what the 501 objectives look like currently. See that? Now, watch this. See if I can get it up. Not you. No, that's no. Well, yeah, like I said about Network Plus. I'm just making sure right here. See right there where there's that version number? Make sure you're using the correct version. Let me pull up the right 501. I know I got it here. Hold on a second. No, not you. Nah, that's a little exam deals. Where are you? I know you on here. That's with your books. See right here where it says 5th edition? When you go on Amazon or wherever you buy your books, make sure you're using the most current edition of the book you're studying. I'll give you an example of why. These books here, like this book right here, see that right there? Exam SY0-04. There's some things in here that are not on the 501 exam. There's some things on the 501 exam that took sections as 401 and condensed them. That is why it's so important to make sure you have the right objectives. Damn, I know I got these damn things. I know I do. I know I do. No, okay, how do I have 2 of those damn exams? Nope, I should have 2 of those. How did I miss that? If I have to put out a paper one of these, I'm all of it upset. Where is where is I'll have to pull out. Do I got those? Do I got those? I don't. But the ones that sometimes your boot camps have, some of them have the current ones, some of them don't. And I wanted to show you the difference, but I, for whatever reason, don't have the actual scanned in handout of the objectives that were used in a boot camp I was sitting in on the other day. It basically wasn't this. It was objectives, but it was like the 005, like the very first objectives they had from about 3 years ago now. Because I want to say the CompTIA 501 is 3 years old. They just give you a little overhang for the test, which is that's the other part of it. Make sure you're using the right objectives and the right books. If you're doing 601, make sure you have the 601. Make sure you have the 601 test. Make sure you have the 601 book. Make sure you have 601 practice test. Make sure you're studying the 601 objectives or 501 objectives. Mixing and matching don't work out too good, except in this little scenario. Let's say, for instance, 401 notes gave you a clearer definition of something that you may couldn't find in the 501 notes. That is the only exception, but it's one of those things you have to go through and find them or look through the objectives. Okay, I can't find anything in this, and I step back to 401, I step back to 501. Oh, 501 has this definition. That'll be the only section you'll be able to use. But when you get to a situation like with 501 and 601, they take certain sections and condense them. Like, let me give you an example. When you go over to the mighty 601 objectives, you get to the 601 objectives, here's what you have. But when you come back to those mighty 501 objectives, here's what you have. Now you may be saying, wait a minute. Over here in the 601 objectives, they left off the cryptology section, PKI. No, they didn't. What they did was they included this section right here, number 6. They stretched it out between architecture, design, and implementation. So most of it is still there. It's just not broken off into a separate section by itself. It's not broken off. They didn't just take this out completely. They took it and condensed it into these two sections right here. And that's what you have to be aware of, because when they condense it, it doesn't go away. Just like when you look at the wording of these objectives, when you get down into the objectives, like this is 501. This is 501. This is 601. See all of this going on in 601? See all this going on? See how they packed more stuff into one area? They didn't get rid of it. Do not get tricked into believing that. They didn't get rid of it. They just were here. They're a lot more focused as the first part. On the 601, they put more stuff in that first part. They expanded your focus. They didn't take anything out per se. They just expanded it and condensed it more, which means you have more to pick up on for the 601 than the first one. Let's go down to, this is section 1.2 of 601. Now, this is 5.501. See all that 501? But then look how they did it in 601. Make sure, again, and these are just examples, the objectives for the test that you want to take, you make sure you're using the right objectives. Make sure you're using the right books. Make sure you're using the right edition. Make sure if it says SY0-501 or 601 or whatever, if that's the test you're going to take, make sure you're using the right material so you won't be lost and you won't miss something that you're going to need. Okay, let's take a look at this is 501 1.3. Look at there, 601 1.3. See that? Now look how much, look what the differences are. But you have to remember, 601 only had 5 objective domains, but look at everything they packed into it. You're not catching a break. It boils down to, like I said again, study so you can succeed. If you want to succeed, you got to study. That's all it is to it. You got to study, and you have to be aware that this test is not just seeing if you know what it is. It's going to make sure you know what you're talking about. Okay? You can implement. And I'll go back to, like I said, your scorecard. Before you get upset, storm out of the room, especially if you do it from a proctored site. Take your score exam. And any section that you have problems with, be sure to go back and double, triple check, review those sections. The reason why you want to do that is so you can boost your score. Don't make the same mistake twice. You don't have to make the same mistake twice. Only thing you got to do, really and truly, is study. You study, you're going to succeed. Next thing I want to say about when you get into the field, understand that expertise and training is different for everybody. Everybody's going to have their strength, everybody's going to have their weaknesses, and unfortunately, there are going to be challenges that you may say, okay, I fixed that, and what now? Get accustomed to the what now. The salaries are the way they are in network security, information security, cyber security, because of the amount of incidents and problems that you have to solve or recover from that sometime are daily, sometime or hourly, sometime or weekly. My experience over the years with information security is that more and more now, the civil and criminal liability for not doing what you're supposed to is a lot harsher than it used to be. Especially the civil penalties where you get sued. You know, a hospital, if they miss a hospital, doctor's clinic, women's facility, cancer treatment center, anything like that, can be held civilly liable for tens of millions of dollars if something happens. Which is why the push now for information security on the health side is the way it is. Same thing with financials. Remember that when you go into this, it's one of those situations where it can be one of the best jobs in the world, or you could be like some people realize it's not for you. Security is a very organic field because things change, operating systems, standards, threats. threat factors. When you look at a scenario like what's going on right now, you look at some of the natural disasters that are happening, winter winds and power grids being down, electricity being off, and you say, well, how can security get involved in that? Information security get involved in it? Well, how do electric companies, power suppliers, power brokers recover? Well, guess what? That data center, that power grid, especially when it's digital, that when we get back to risk response, do you have some type of insurance where if people start suing, your insurance company handles those claims and start paying them? That's one side. As far as getting the actual machinery up itself, between the actual power pole workers and yourself, you're going to be out there in that 30-degree weather, 20-degree weather, trying to make that work. When you talk about Internet of Things, everybody wants to control their heating and air conditioning system from their phone. They want to turn their lights on and off by their phone. Those Internet of Things are vulnerable. We had some situations last year around Christmas time where everybody was using the security devices that basically if someone walked up to your door, I'm not going to pick on any particular vendor, I'm just going to go use them generically. They came up and there were people who had hacked into those systems and were communicating with the individuals inside. And that's pretty scary. But let's go back to both sides of that. Okay. The vendor sold them that security system. Did they tell them or teach them how to configure it, where they use some type of two-stage authentication, where not just anyone from either war driving was a term that came about in late 90s, early 2000s, where people ride around scanning for devices like that. In most states, that's illegal now. You use Wireshark without permission on a network. That's a felony in a lot of states. Did they tell them about that? We'll never know until the civil cases get complete. But when everything is interconnected like that, that two-stage authentication, just authentication period, not just have them out there open, you'd be surprised at the people who have those Ring phones, those wireless surveillance systems around their house. And they don't have any type of password set up. They don't have any type of password. They don't have any type of authentication to protect them and their home. They're just hanging out there. And that's not a good place to be, mainly because you have to, that's part of your security perimeter. You don't want someone hacking into it, harassing you, or hacking into it and turning your lights on and off, or disabling the system and robbing you blind. That's not what you want. So from the consumer side all the way up to enterprise side, or say for instance if it's with some type of early childhood or secondary education or college situations, some daycares now have it where parents have a login and password and they can see what the kid's doing at the daycare center. They can check in on them. If a parent can't be there and they're doing something special at the daycare center, like a birthday party, they can log in and see that. Think about the overhead for that. Think about how much that costs to make that happen. That's not free. That's not cheap. So security through obscurity works for some people and it's cost effective for some people. But that's not the point of security. I want to encourage you to understand the different levels of response. Understand the different responsibilities of recovering and compensating and avoiding, because it's a great field to be in. Now, when we talk about software and we talk about things like SQL injections, or we talk about the ghost in the machine, the ghost in the browser, all those different things, Programming is something to where, depending on where you work and what you're accustomed to deal with, that's going to determine what coding skill set you're going to pick up. That coding skill set comes in the sense of you find an attack, you find some type of malware, you find some type of spyware, adware, some type of ransomware attack. And if you get part of that code, which sometimes you can, and put in a sterilized area, you can deconstruct that code and re-engineer it. You can look in there and answer questions that are very important. Were clear text, username and password stored there? Did it have a connection as crowd for help to another server and get those passwords? Does it give you some type of clue or path to where a backup copy of your data went, where you might be able to find it? Did it do that, or did it just completely erase it? I want to take the elf magic out of how these problems occur. Give you an example I'm talking about. When those programs run on those systems, knowing what all they're doing, what they did, is important, because you may be thinking, okay, it encrypted it, and no, it didn't. It just deleted it. And I'll give you an example. A few years ago, a finance company was broken into, and it didn't wipe their spreadsheets clean, but it just wrote 555555555 in all of the fields of their database, and they were thinking it had been encrypted. The actual databases themselves and spreadsheets themselves have been stolen and had been replaced with those databases and those sheets that just had 55555. And they spent money and time trying to decrypt something that wasn't even encrypted. That was just what the program did. It filled in all those spaces with a bunch of fives. Had another situation where I had a company that got a municipality, convinced them. They paid them, I think it was maybe $300,000-$400,000 over what the ransom was. They could recover their stuff, but that's what they had to do. Well, come to find out, they didn't recover shit. They took the money from the municipality and paid the ransom and only got half their stuff back. So it's little things like that. You have to be ready to deal with and understand that can happen. Those things happen. And I go back and say again, with this Security Plus, this misnomer is basic. It may be what's called a baseline, which means here's your starting point. Here's what you need to know to be able to effectively hit the ground running. That's not the same as basic. The Security Plus exam has elements of Linux Plus, Network Plus, A Plus, that ITT Plus, that Cloud Essentials, Cloud Plus. It covers a lot of ground, because you have to remember the entire information network cyber field is what you dove off into. That's what you dove off into, and that's what you're trying to protect, recover from, compensate for, etc. And the test is designed to see, even at the first door level, which is Security Plus, do you know what this is? Can you do it? And if you need help, go seek out help. Watch videos like this one. Professor Messer is good. Want to try Cert Master for CompTIA, that's fine. Like I mentioned about the boot camps that prep you for tests like this. Just don't go in this blind thinking that it's going to be a pushover test and thinking that all you have to do is memorize. I say that over and over and over and over again, because once you do Security Plus, I'll give you another scenario. Many colleges and universities now, even junior colleges, Security Plus is a certification that you have to pass and have in order to have that cybersecurity minor or major. I can think of a few universities I mentioned in the podcast I was in the other day, University of Texas system. Well, they're not the only one. There are several that offer cybersecurity bachelor's, 2-year colleges offer associates. That that's the certification you have to pass to be able to have that cybersecurity option. Not every school is doing it yet, but there are a lot that do. So remember, when you get out in the field, you could have a situation where you feel like, I don't have that much experience with this. Well, with some exceptions, you could be up in there with a person with a 2-year associates or a 4-year degree, that you and them in the same boat. You could have passed the test same time. The day I took my test, it was like 15 of us in there, and it was a mixed bag. It was myself, veteran of the game, some people who had been in the IT arena that was trying to level up, some guys who were at the junior college, some guys that, they were at the 4-year university and they were trying to graduate this May with that cybersecurity minor or that cybersecurity major. Be aware of how serious and how deep this is, and you'll succeed. And that's what it's about at the end of the day. You want to succeed in this. My classes, as far as that's going to go in security, I'm going to lean on some input for you guys. The reason I'm going to lean on a little bit of input for you guys is because I could do a full year course on just 1 or 2 aspects of it, but I don't want to do that. I want to broaden it, because if I can help anyone and inspire anyone to do better on any of their exams, but in particular Security Plus, I'm willing to do that. But I'm gonna need you to, speak up. You need to tell me something so I know how to do it. And just keep in mind that your books, your VMs that you're going to need to do some testing things, all those may seem overwhelming and daunting and expensive, especially the books. That's why I want to point you in the direction of, if it's 601 stuff, 501 until the 501 expires, which I want to say is going to be July. It's going to expire fully or retire, and it'll be all 601. When that happens, if say you miss your window for 501, you're at 601. If you take the test and you bomb it, go back and look through the objectives. That's going to help you. And, just try to have fun out there, man. After you get your cert and you start working, try not to take yourself too serious. Because one of the things about security people don't understand is, whether you're a pen tester, ethical hacker, or policy and compliance person, you're going to be dealing with people, and you're going to have a sense of humor. Because there's always a crisis, there's always some type of chaos. And you try not to get so down on yourself that you suffer and your performance suffers. It'd be good to say we win all the time, but that's why acceptable risk, the transference, and the compensation comes in. You're going to learn those and be familiar with those when you finish the Security Plus. The Security Plus is one of those certifications, much like some of the old Microsoft certifications were, that when you pass it, you're going to know something. So I wish you guys the best of luck. I meant to go longer with this live stream because I promised I'd do the unboxing of my certificate and my ID card on things like that. And I'm going to do one for each one of my certifications that I get. I hadn't decided whether I'm gonna do the long form like this or I'm just gonna do a quick, it came in the mail and hadn't decided that yet. But as I decided, I'll, knock it out. Also, if you want to make suggestions where on this channel, if you want me to start playing video games on this channel again, no problem, because it's a technology center. I can do video games, I can do teaching. It's going to be, like I said earlier in a live stream, I want to cover a broad spectrum of stuff, and I'm going to go in depth with some stuff. I'm getting some positive feedback on the licensings for the development studios for the programming side of it. But like I said, until I get the full thou shalt not and what can I do, I'm going to probably do a lot of scripting stuff before I get into too deep into the Microsoft stuff. So like I said, they take that personally. And I've already had to deal with some licensing issues in the past when it came to things like that with classes, especially, in this modern era. Like I said, they want you to come to them. They want to teach you. They want you to pay them. They frown upon really anyone that's tutoring that platform that's not paying them directly. So it's been a good talk this morning. I'm going to talk again. I'm not sure what type of schedule I'm going to be on, but just kind of keep your ear to the ground. Thanks for all the loyal followers. Thanks you to everybody who's, left some good feedback and sticks to me. And you say, what do you mean feedback? These videos that this live stream right now is on about 3 different platforms right now. So I got my chat from like Instagram. I got my chat from Twitter, or my comments from Twitter. I got some Facebook stuff on there. I got some Periscope stuff on there. So you can't see what I'm seeing, but I got 4 monitors in front of it right now. And so when I'm asking questions, I'm talking and typing I'm responding to different social things that's popping up. And I hope that translates to building this channel. So right now, this channel is kind of light in subscribers, but then it's kind of light material because I just started building it. Yes, the Aquaman review I took down. I didn't like it, so I took it down. I don't know if I'm going to keep the memory install video up. I'm working currently now on a new memory install video where the lighting is a lot better. Like right now, you see my lighting's kind of, but I've got a overhead camera set up, and I'm trying to get my lighting just right where there are no shadows, because that video is kind of shadowy, but I'm working on that. So bear with me. My A+ style fix-it videos are coming back. My networking stuff, I'm going to be doing a lot of it virtually, because I'll be honest with you, I don't feel like dragging equipment to the lab. I don't feel like driving equipment to the server room, because the server room is noisy. And earlier today, tried to film some things in there, and the background noise is just terrible. And it was a situation where we could just shut some things down, because once again, it was in the data center. So I'm gonna work that out. Maybe I can get some better noise canceling filter or something like that. If I get it, we'll go back to the lab, we'll go back to the data center. If I don't get it, then it'll be virtual and it'll be a lot more visual, and that'll help out a little bit. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I've been going almost an hour now, and I need to get a little bit of rest. But thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for subscribing, listening. Thank you for donating. You guys are pretty awesome with that. And I will see you guys in the next video. You guys are awesome.